We all crave that epic feeling, to be the main character. But getting there is tough when you're lazy and distracted. What if I told you there's a powerful Japanese secret your favorite anime heroes use? It's called kaizen, and it's the blueprint for continuous, radical transformation. Get ready to level up your life, one small step at a time. We all secretly want it, right? To be the anime protagonist of our own story. To have that moment where the background music swells, the lighting shifts, and everyone realizes you're the one. The hero destined for greatness. But let's be real. Achieving that epic status can feel impossible when you're caught in the mundane cycle of modern life. You're trying to level up, but you're constantly fighting the bosses of procrastination, lack of discipline, and that relentless distraction magnet we call a phone. It's easy to look at those legendary anime characters, the ones who go from zero to absolute legend, and feel like their journey is just fantasy. Like their power-up sequence is something only a writer can grant. But what if I told you that the secret to their success, the real engine behind their transformation, isn't some magical cursed object or alien DNA? What if it's a powerful, real-world Japanese philosophy that every single one of your favorite heroes, from the underdog shonen lead to the stoic simp AI, follows? That philosophy is called kaizen. It's more than just a buzzword. It's the entire blueprint for continuous, radical transformation. And here's the kicker. By truly understanding and implementing its core principles, you can stop just dreaming about your potential and start actively creating a life where you not only get the physique, the career, and the confidence you crave, but you become completely unrecognizable to your former self. You become the main character. So what is kaizen? At its heart, kaizen is defined by one elegant and incredibly potent idea: continuous improvement of the self. The word itself, roughly translated, means change for the better, kai = change, zen = good. It's an approach that was famously adopted by Japanese businesses after World War II, leading to revolutionary increases in efficiency and quality. But long before it optimized factory floor production, it was a philosophy about personal growth, mastery, and the art of getting better every single day. Now, maybe you've heard the term kaizen before. Maybe you even tossed it around once or twice. But knowing the word is like having the map to the treasure without knowing how to read the terrain. Most people struggle with how to actually integrate this mindset into the messy reality of their lives. They try to make massive, overnight changes, the classic new year, new me approach, and inevitably crash and burn within 2 weeks. Kaizen offers a different path. It's the philosophy that explains why the weak, clumsy hero at the start of the series eventually masters their power. They don't jump from level 1 to level 100 in a single episode. They show up, they practice, they learn a tiny new trick, they get 1% stronger, and they repeat it relentlessly. Kaizen is the strategic, step-by-step process for making that kind of evolution happen in your life. This journey starts not with a grand feat of strength, but with a strategic cleanup, a necessary edit of your own life screenplay. It's about getting focused, getting efficient, and maximizing the experience points you earn every day. The secret to unlocking kaizen and truly starting your transformation lies in a few crucial principles. The first, and perhaps the most crucial for clearing the way for growth, is identifying and eliminating the things that are dragging your story down. The useless side plots and unnecessary exposition that waste your precious time and energy. Think about the feeling of watching a show you love, only to hit a stretch of episodes that feel utterly pointless, contributing nothing to the main storyline. That's filler. Every great story, and every great protagonist, must first learn to cut the filler. In the narrative of your life, that filler is anything that drains your energy without moving you closer to your ultimate goal. Every legendary anime protagonist has a moment, often right at the beginning of their journey, where they have to identify something they must sacrifice or eliminate to make space for their new identity. Yuji Itadori had to eliminate the hope of a normal, quiet death to become a jujutsu sorcerer. Sung Jin-woo in Solo Leveling had to sacrifice parts of his former weak self and his old humanity to surpass his limits and ascend. You see, to embark on a hero's journey, you must shed the baggage that makes you a supporting character. You need to look at your daily habits and ask a brutal, honest question. The Kaizen question. Is what I am doing right now bringing me closer to my goal, or is it just wasting time? The filler in your life isn't just the obvious stuff like endlessly doom scrolling on your phone, getting lost in video game side quests, or, dare I say it, spending hours watching anime instead of applying its lessons. It's also the subtle, insidious habits, mindlessly snacking on junk food, that third drink of the week, or even activities that feel productive but yield no real result. For example, maybe you think you're being productive by reading self-help books for hours or listening to endless productivity podcasts. You're absorbing ideas, but are you using them? If you spend 5 hours listening to people talk about how to be productive, but don't actually get up and do the work, you're not learning. You're just entertaining yourself. What you thought was a training montage was actually just a filler arc. The Kaizen approach demands you convert this filler into fuel. If an activity isn't serving your main plot, you have 2 choices: eliminate it, or find a way to make it useful and integrate it into your goal. This isn't about being a robot, it's about being an editor, carefully curating the episodes of your life so that every scene pushes the story forward. This is the critical first step to transformation: clearing the deck so you can actually begin your training arc. We've established that to truly unlock your inner protagonist, you need the Kaizen mindset, continuous, focused improvement. And the crucial first step on any hero's journey isn't gaining a new power. It's eliminating the things that hold you back. In the language of anime, we're talking about shedding the filler arcs. Think about your favorite sprawling anime, the ones with hundreds of episodes. The fandom knows which arcs you can skip. Why? Because they don't contribute to the main plot. They don't develop the characters. They don't advance the mission. And they don't increase the hero's power level. They are essentially a massive waste of the viewer's time. Your life right now is likely riddled with these exact time sinks. The key to applying Kaizen here is rigorous self-editing. You need to look at your daily routine, not as a schedule you have to keep, but as a screenplay you have the power to slash and refine. Every great protagonist understands the concept of sacrifice. When Yuji Itadori started his hero's journey, he had to accept that his life expectancy was 0. When Sung Jinwoo went from the world's weakest hunter to the Shadow Monarch, he had to shed his old self, pushing past the limitations of his humanity. What are you sacrificing to make room for your legendary arc? Kaizen gives us the simplest, most brutal tool for identifying our personal filler: the purpose test. Just ask yourself this: is what I am doing right now bringing me closer to my goal, or is it just wasting time? This is where the rubber meets the road. It's easy to point the finger at obvious time wasters. Of course, that 2-hour doom scroll session on your phone is filler. Yes, playing video games until 3 a.m. when you have an early morning is filler. But sometimes, even watching anime, the very thing that inspires this journey, can be filler if you're using it to escape your real-world training arc instead of fueling it. The real challenge, and where most people fail, is spotting the subtle filler. The stuff that feels innocent or even productive. The diet saboteurs. Maybe it's not hours of gaming, but that daily stop for a soda or the habit of finishing a bag of chips in one sitting. These seemingly small, repetitive actions don't advance your aesthetic physique goal. They actively sabotage it, the false productivity trap. This is the sneakiest villain of all. Think back to the transcript. The person who spent hours listening to productivity podcasts and self-help gurus. Their brain was tricked into thinking they were being productive because they were absorbing information. But they weren't acting on it. They were entertaining themselves with the idea of progress without doing the difficult, unglamorous work of application. The problem wasn't the information. The problem was the gap between absorption and action. If you're planning your perfect workout routine for 3 hours instead of spending 45 minutes in the gym, the planning is filler. If you're researching the perfect business niche for 6 months without ever launching a minimum viable product, the research has become filler. The solution is twofold and requires a commitment to converting potential filler into valuable experience points. Cut ruthlessly. If an activity repeatedly fails the purpose test, you need to treat it like a bad habit and cut it from your script. Do you really need to be on social media immediately after waking up? Probably not. Cut it. Replace that morning scroll with a 10-minute walk or a few minutes of meditation. Convert strategically. If an activity is unavoidable or inherently valuable, like listening to educational content, you must immediately find a way to implement what you learn. Before, listen to a podcast on nutrition while driving home. After, listen to the podcast, and the moment you get home, immediately write down the single most useful recipe or technique and integrate it into your meal plan for the next day. The fear is that eliminating everything will be impossible. You might be thinking, how can I possibly eliminate all my comfort habits in one day? And that brings us perfectly to the second core principle of Kaizen. The Kaizen philosophy isn't about massive, disruptive edits that lead to burnout. It's about recognizing the filler, but then using the 1% principle to eliminate it incrementally. You don't have to quit everything cold turkey. You just need to start cutting the filler by the smallest possible amount today. But you must first be honest about what is truly serving your epic quest and what is merely a distracting side mission. Your time is your most precious currency, and the protagonist of a great story doesn't waste time on anything that doesn't push them toward victory. Stop watching the show. Start directing it. You know, the hardest part isn't knowing you need to cut the filler. It's actually starting that first painful cut. If eliminating those bad habits feels impossible right now, and you need a structured battle plan to launch your 1% power-up journey, don't worry. We built the perfect launchpad for you. My new ebook, 30 Days to a Better You, is a zero-filler, highly focused, 4-week training arc designed to put the Kaizen principles into immediate action. It breaks down those massive, intimidating goals into 30 days of small, achievable 1% steps. Stop just editing your life and start building it. Click the link below to grab your copy and begin your personal 30-day glow-up immediately. You faced the truth and started slicing the filler from your life. Great! You've cleared the screen and now you're ready to start training. But here's where most aspiring protagonists make a fatal flaw. They try to go from 0 to 100 in one dramatic episode. They set colossal goals. I'm going to work out 5 times a week, quit all sugar, meditate for an hour, and learn a new language by next month. That's the equivalent of a hero trying to master their ultimate form on day 1. It leads to immediate overload, spectacular burnout, and then the inevitable relapse back into the comfort of old habits. This is exactly where the second core principle of Kaizen, the 1% power-up principle, comes to save your training arc. Have you ever noticed how insane the power curve is in a great anime? The heroes start as weak, confused nerds, barely able to perform a basic technique. But by the finale, they are world-shattering forces of nature. The magic isn't in a sudden explosion of strength. It's in the consistency of small gains. Sung Jinwoo in Solo Leveling didn't just wake up powerful. He slowly leveled up, grinded through grueling daily quests, and increased his stats 1 point at a time. Deku in My Hero Academia started off only able to use a tiny percentage of One for All without shattering his body. Every fight, every practice session, he pushed that percentage up just a little bit higher. That slow, incremental daily gain is the entire engine of Kaizen if you look at your goals, like achieving an anime physique or building a successful side business. As a massive to-do list, it instantly becomes intimidating. Your brain sees the enormous gap between who you are now and the GigaChad MC status you want to be, and it whispers, "Nope, too much work. Let's just stay on the couch." Kaizen tells us to stop viewing our journey as a distant destination and start viewing it as a continuous XP bar. That bar goes up by just 1% every single day. The point of Kaizen is not to become the final, perfected version of yourself as quickly as possible. The point is to slowly evolve and morph into that person through tiny, sustainable acts. This is the ultimate hack for defeating procrastination. Make the first step so small that you can't say no. If your overall goal is to work out 5 times a week and lose 10 pounds and you're currently a complete noob, don't start with the 5 workouts. You're setting yourself up for failure. Instead, think 1%. Goal: work out consistently. 1% action this week. I will do 1 set of 1 exercise like 10 push-ups every morning. That's it. It takes 60 seconds. Goal: quit drinking alcohol. 1% action this week. I will only drink once this week instead of 3 times. These steps seem ridiculously small. That's the entire point. They bypass your brain's resistance filter. They require virtually zero motivation to start, but they do require one critical thing: consistency. You're making the rungs on your ladder so close together that it's effortless to climb. You're building momentum, not attempting a vertical leap. Here's the hidden power. Once you start consistently nailing that 1% action, you get a rush of confidence. It becomes a habit and your brain starts craving the feeling of progress. You do 1 set of push-ups easily this week. Next week, you naturally increase it to 2 sets. The week after, maybe you add a 10-minute walk. In 1 month, you might be consistently doing 6 sets of exercises every day and feeling ready to cut alcohol altogether. This is the Kaizen loop. Small actions create small wins, which build confidence, which makes the next small step easier. You didn't eliminate all your bad habits in 1 day. You chipped away at them 1% at a time. Instead of quitting doom scrolling entirely, try cutting back for 5 minutes a day. Instead of forcing yourself to write 1,000 words, Commit to writing one sentence. When you focus on the smallest possible thing, it takes the intimidation factor away. Any little step forward that helps you level up, no matter how tiny, is a victory. As long as you are moving forward, even if it's just a shuffle, you are leveling up. But just knowing the 1% rule isn't enough. It's a strategy that requires execution, and execution requires you to step out of the safe zone. It requires principle 3. You need to find your gamba. You've eliminated the filler and you've committed to the steady, manageable upward curve of the 1% power up. You're building momentum and planning your daily XP grind. But here's the harsh truth that separates the main characters from the side characters. Planning is not progress. You can stare at your workout schedule, read your business plans, and memorize all the techniques in the world. But if you don't step into the arena, you will never actually transform. You will remain stuck in planning hell. This is why we need the third principle of Kaizen. You must go to the gamba. Now, what the heck is a gamba? I know. I'm expanding your anime vocabulary with concepts that sound complex but are profoundly simple. Gamba, or gemba, literally translates to the real place or the actual spot. In the context of Kaizen, it's the place where the action happens, where the work is applied, and where the results are generated. It's the battlefield, not the training room. Think about one of the most iconic turning points in Jujutsu Kaisen, Satoru Gojo. The legendary Gojo couldn't, for the life of him, master the reverse curse technique. He studied, he asked questions, he puzzled over the theory. Nothing clicked. He only grasped the concept, truly understood the mechanic, and successfully applied it when his very life was on the line, after being stabbed by Toji Fushiguro. Gojo's gamba wasn't the classroom, the library, or the conversation with his peers. His gamba was the desperate, bloody moment on the battlefield when he had to heal himself or die. In life, you only ever unlock your true power. You only ever power up when the real fight begins. You don't get stronger while you're safely training in the dojo. You get stronger when you're forced to perform under pressure outside of it. If you want the Kaizen principles to actually work, you must stop contemplating and start doing the thing. Will staring at the perfect 5-day workout plan on your phone give you the aesthetic physique you want? No. Your gamba is the gym floor. Get out there and lift something. Will spending hours watching pickup artists talk about social dynamics help you find a partner or make a new friend? No. Your gamba is the coffee shop, the social event, or the street corner. Get out there and talk to people. Will endlessly listening to the strategies of successful entrepreneurs make you money? No. Your gamba is building the business, making the sale, writing the code, or filming the first video. Start building it from the ground up. I've been there. Before launching my own journey on YouTube, I spent days, weeks, maybe even months contemplating. What would my niche be? Would I be good enough? Should I wait until I have better equipment? All of that worrying and planning was filler. The improvement didn't start until I finally shut my brain off, went straight to writing, filming, and editing, and uploaded that first, imperfect video. My experience, my confidence, and my skills didn't come from the planning. They came from the gamba. From the act of uploading, getting feedback, and making a mistake. Finding your gamba may sound complex, but there's a ridiculously simple shortcut. If you find yourself paralyzed in planning hell, just look at the result you were chasing. If you're thinking about the perfect opening line to ask out a crush, your gamba is actually asking the person out. If you're meticulously organizing your to-do list for your next business project, your gamba is making the first cold call or sending the first deliverable. If you're agonizing over the right camera angle for your next video, your gamba is hitting the record button and uploading the video. Your gamba is the place where you must apply the skill and take the risk. It's where the theoretical 1% improvements become real-world experience points. However, once you find your gamba and take action, you need a way to ensure that you don't just win one battle, only to regress later. You need to turn that initial burst of action into an unbreakable cycle of improvement. If you don't, all your action will fall apart, leading us directly to Principle 4. You need an established fighting style. You've found your gamba, you've taken the action, and you've tasted the sweet, satisfying feeling of genuine progress. Maybe you hit your first pull-up, closed your first sale, or finally spoke confidently to someone new. You're on a hot streak. A period of absolute momentum, confidence, and peak performance. You feel like the unstoppable protagonist you always wanted to be. But then, the trap snaps shut. You celebrate, you relax, you become complacent, and then slowly you fall back into old habits. You regress. You lose the gains, and you're suddenly back to feeling like a sad little loser right where you started. I've been there. We've all been there. This happens because you missed the most important truth about self-improvement and the ultimate secret of Kaizen. There is no season finale. Every anime story gives us a satisfying, clean ending. The hero beats the big bad, the world is saved, and everything goes back to normal. The end goal is reached, and the work is done. This fictional narrative is the most dangerous myth we try to apply to our real lives. When you finally reach a major goal, losing those 10 pounds, publishing that first piece of content, going on that first date, you're tempted to think, that's it, I did it. I'm Mr. Big Shot now. This thinking leads directly to complacency and inevitably stagnation. Or worse, complete regression. The core, inescapable idea of Kaizen is that the work is never done. The moment you achieve a goal, it immediately becomes the new baseline. It is not the finish line. It's the starting line for your next, higher level of achievement. You think Goku was done when he reached Super Saiyan? Of course not. He had to hit Super Saiyan 2, then 3, then God, then Ultra Instinct. The progression never stopped. Unless you achieve true, absolute perfection. Like maybe Perfect Cell, but even he got blown up. There is always something that can be improved upon. Kaizen demands a subtle but profound shift in your perspective. You must learn to love the process more than the result. The reward is not the achievement itself. The reward is who you become in the act of pursuing it. This doesn't mean you should be grinding yourself into dust 24/7 or never celebrating your milestones. In fact, you should celebrate your wins, even the small ones. That dopamine hit reinforces the positive habit. But immediately after the celebration, you must re-engage principle 2. Take that 1% step forward. You did your first pull-up? Awesome. Now the work is to make that one pull-up consistent and start working toward 2. You lost 10 pounds? Fantastic. Now the work is to maintain that weight and refine your diet for the next 5 pounds. You launched your first YouTube video? Great. Now the work is to apply what you learned from the comments and make the second video 1% better. The most successful people aren't the ones who had the most explosive start. They are the ones who never ever stopped moving forward, no matter how small the step. The mantra of the true protagonist should always be, there is still work to be done. Now, to make this continuous journey work, you can't neglect other parts of your life. This brings us to the final principle, mastering unity or the power of the well-rounded character. Think of an iconic team, like Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara. Each is strong, but if one falls behind, the entire team dynamic crumbles. You have to think of all the aspects of your life as a cohesive unit, like the stat screen in Solo Leveling. Strength, stamina, intelligence, perception, and agility. When you start self-improvement, it's easy to hyper-focus. You only focus on fitness and neglect your relationships and mental health. You only focus on your business and burn out your physical health. The hero you want to become isn't just a strong guy who is miserable or a rich guy who is unhealthy. The true protagonist is the one who balances their growth. You must apply Kaizen, that 1% continuous improvement, to every aspect of your life, however small the step. Fitness, add 1 extra set of an exercise. Mental health, spend 5 minutes journaling every morning. Relationships, send 1 thoughtful text to a friend you haven't talked to in a while. Career, spend 15 minutes organizing your workspace. Once you're able to apply this philosophy of continuous, balanced improvement across all your stats, you won't just be a part of the man you wanted to be. You will be the complete, whole, and fully actualized protagonist. You'll be consistently moving forward on all fronts, and you truly won't even recognize the person you started as. The training arc will simply have become your life.